Happy New Year! In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt Podcast, we look back at the big trends of 2024 and gaze ahead to what's in store for 2025. And we answer your questions on trackers and insurance, camping in high winds, and caring for your lithium battery setup.
Here you go, ready? The champagne's open! Hooray!
Woohoo!
Destroyed the studio roof.
Woo-hoo!
Here we go.
Oh, champagne. Happy New Year and welcome to the Motorhome Matt Podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights and expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and camper vans. And it's all brought to you by thatleisureshop.com.
Now, we always say it, but please remember to follow on your favourite podcast app. And if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and click the bell on YouTube. Brought to you by arabasecreative.co.uk.
So how was your Christmas then, Matt?
Yeah, lovely. It was brilliant.
Yeah?
How was yours?
Oh, fantastic. I've got a jumbo jet full of diamonds.
Did you?
I did, yes. Yes, cheers to everybody. Elon Musk drops by with his £100 million.
Did he?
Oh, yes, definitely did, yeah.
We got Elon on the roof. We got Starlink.
Yeah, oh, have you?
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah.
I'm sure it is. Big price, though, isn't it? It costs a lot of money, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was on special offer and then £75 a month.
Oh, no wonder he's a billionaire.
Good internet, though. He popped around himself and screwed it to the wall. It's very good of him.
He's named a satellite after you, is he?
Has he? A satellite
No. So what's been your top product of 2024?
It has to have been, and this was really exciting when we did this, at That Leisure Shop we launched, I'm reaching for them all, our own branded cleaning products designed specifically for motorhomes, campervans, caravans. These are just some of them. This is the luxury body shampoo, which I know is your favourite.
I've got a luxury body.
Yeah, absolutely. Dash and trim cleaner and tyre and rubber dressing. These are just some of them. There's a whole range of environmentally safe products. They are so effective. A number of professional valeters have been testing them and using them. We've been using them as a team as well, and they are superb, and they've really hit the spot. They've absolutely flamed. Been great.
Fantastic. It's the Motorhome Matt Podcast, brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
So, Matt, the big trends, what were they in 2024?
Yeah, gosh, screen prices had to be the price of motorhomes, just seemingly getting higher and higher. I remember we went up to Birmingham for the October show, and I joked that we all took a big breath as we arrived. And we really did, because we had no idea what was going to happen. But deals were seemingly being done. And the other big trend of 24, which was a really sad one, was seeing so many household names, dealerships going bust into administration or liquidating. Really sad for those who've lost their jobs. Manufacturers cutting workforce as well. And that's been a real challenge, I know, for many people that listen to this podcast. And that's certainly been the story of 2024. And I fear won't be over as we go into the new year either. And many dealerships are still struggling with too much stock. You know, you go into a motorhome dealership now and there's just loads of motorhomes on the forecourt. It was only a few years ago they'd have like half a dozen, and now seemingly they've got hundreds of them almost. And it's not over yet. You know, at the end of this year, Deborah has announced that World of Camping and Camping Outlet will cease trading.
Deborah?
She's a friend of mine. She owns World of Camping and Camping Outlet, and the family have announced that they are going to turn these businesses off. They've been around for years, and they're big, big businesses. They can't find a buyer. No one's interested in buying them. We're not in a position to buy them ourselves. And they've decided at the end of this year they will cease trading, and they will turn the brands off, which is a great shame because you know, they're long established family businesses. And they've just decided enough is enough. And I asked her why, and she said, well, there's not enough margin in the product. We do a big deal with a manufacturer, and then they undercut us and sell it to somebody else at a lower price, which means they can retail it. There's always a race to the bottom online. And it's not just our industry, it's every industry, isn't it, that's struggling with this. And also, we've gotten this trend as well where manufacturers are struggling, wholesalers are struggling, and they're starting to sell direct to the consumer. cutting the retailer out and offering deals direct online, which is, as a retailer here, we feel that too. It's really difficult. And so there are certain products that we're no longer selling because we just can't compete with the manufacturer or the wholesaler who is essentially cutting us out. So it's not all doom and gloom though, but that has been certainly the story of this year.
Quite a bit of doom and gloom, if you don't mind me saying.
I know, yeah, it's true. And I do feel for those who've been directly affected by this. I really do. But yeah, it has been a very challenging landscape commercially this year.
So that's some of the bad news. What were your highlights of the year?
Seeing more and more brands wanting to reach you, the consumer, via this podcast. That has been amazing. And some really big names. I mean, EcoFlow have just done a short stint with us very recently, promoting their Christmas offers, working with Ripe Insurance throughout the year, new to the marketplace, and choosing this podcast as a way of reaching you, the people that spend the money. And that has been a real privilege and an honour, and frankly, really exciting. And we've got some really exciting partners planned and conversations happening for next year. So we are really, really excited about new partners coming on board with us and joining the Motorhome Matt Approved directory as well. I've been reaching out to brands that I've used and can genuinely recommend to our listeners, and getting them engaged with us in that way.
Yeah, it's not just a sales job, is it?
No,
you have to. Matt's endorsing the products, and so they're tested, and he puts his name to them. Yeah, he doesn't say yes to anybody who comes along and waves a tenner at him. So the Motorhome Matt Approved site really is full of products and services that Matt personally endorses.
And we have turned some away. It's fair to say they will never be named. But there are brands that have not been welcomed onto the directory. So, yeah, if there's a brand on there, I can put my name to it, and I genuinely do. Another highlight of the year has to have been meeting all our listeners as well. It really was quite overwhelming, wasn't it, Keith?
It really was.
At the NEC
fantastic
show.
Yeah, and we also went to Shepton Mallet, didn't we? I remember.
We did.
Loads of people coming up saying hi. It's brilliant to meet you. Thanks very much for listening and watching. Yeah,
really, really good and very encouraging. The advice centres at the Warner shows have been a highlight this year. If you go to one of the outdoor motorhome shows, Warner's introduced this thing called the Advice Centre, and it's the great and the good of YouTube and a few others that are giving talks, really helpful talks, insights onto solo female travel, installing lithium in your motorhome, travelling with kids, going to Europe, travelling with pets, you name it, getting great Wi-Fi on the road. We've covered so many topics. There's a whole team of us. There's normally, I think, about 28 free talks at all of these shows, and the number of people that have agreed with me that they are a reason to go to the outside shows is becoming quite impressive, and they've been a real highlight. Great fun to do, really, really enjoyable, and of course the Birmingham show is always a highlight too. Being on the Ask the Expert panel is always great fun. You've no idea what you're going to get asked, although there are always generally themes to the questions.
Wi-Fi,
payload, lithium,
travelling in Europe.
Travelling in Europe, they're usually the ones. So yeah, that was great fun. I'm doing it again in 2025 as well. And the big one here, we have hit over 1 million downloads.
Over 1 million downloads and views.
That's well over 1 million now.
Yeah, well over 1 million. And thank you very much. It's much appreciated for making us so popular. We're consistently in the automotive charts for Apple Podcasts and consistently up there on YouTube as well. And like Matt says, hitting over 1 million listens and views. And we really couldn't have done it without you. Fantastic.
No.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers to the next million.
We've been going for 3 years. Most podcasts don't manage 12 weeks.
I was going to say 3 months, isn't it?
Yeah, something like
3
that.
episodes. Yeah. It was still going.
Talking of episodes, what's your favourite one?
Cool. There's not one in particular, really, but I'll tell you the one that was kind of got me thinking the most. It was one we did at the Southwest Motorhome Show, a Warner show at Shepton Mallet you mentioned just now. Mm-hmm. And we had 2 motorhome dealers on stage. We had Sarah from Southwest Motorhomes and Tom from Somerset Motorhome Centre, and Peter Vaughan, the YouTuber from Out About Live. And we did this kind of unpacking what's really going on in the industry. There'd been so much rhetoric this year on what was going on in dealerships and in the business and behind the scenes. And some of it was true. A lot of it is just guesswork by YouTubers, frankly. And I watched a lot of it and thought that is not the case. So to go on stage with these three fellas, or two guys and a girl, and actually unpack some real elephant in the room questions. We talked about margin, we talked about discounting, we talked about supply chain, we talked about after sales care. Why is it so hard to get my motorhome repaired with you when I didn't buy it from you? Why is that the case? And Sarah and Tom were fantastic, really honest. And I also want to thank the audience who didn't throw them under the bus, because we opened the floor up to questions, didn't we? And I said, look, these guys are here to have a really honest and open conversation. Nobody threw them under the bus. Nobody went for them. There were some great questions, and it's a really, really good episode, and I'm dead proud of it. And I thank everyone that was involved with it. And a thank you to Warners for letting me do it, because I know they were a bit nervous when I suggested the idea, but to be able to pull it together was a privilege. So yeah, glad we did it. That's probably one of my favourites.
As motorhome dealers, what do they really think of the industry? Yeah. Let's look ahead now to 2025. What's in store then?
Loads more shows and events. The year kicks off with the Manchester show up in Manchester Central in January, in a few weeks' time. Excited again to be involved with all the Warner shows. We'll be there as That Leisure Shop, and I'm there as Motorhome Matt, and this year I'm actually hosting the advice centres, so I'm committing into those full-time, as it were, and they're appearing at more and more of the shows throughout the year, and they are great, and I'm really excited about the Q&As that we'll pull off, because there'll be kind of a facilitated Q&A, and we did this at Campervan Campact, one of the shows in May, and it was brilliant, just to be able to watch the presentation and then with the audience ask questions of the presenter, and we got some real deep dive detail going on. It was great, so I'm really excited about that.
And the Motorhome Matt Podcast is media partner of those Warner shows, isn't it?
We are, yeah. Yep. That's good too. Yeah, we're excited about that.
Okay, you're happy that we're partnering with Warner's once again. You've been talking to Michael Douglas. He's the head of marketing at Warner's.
So, Michael, the first show for you of the year is your January sale. Just tell us, where is it and when?
It's the 17th to the 19th of January in Stoneleigh Park.
Brilliant. Now, this is an indoor show, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
And what can people expect to see?
So this is very much a buying event. So it's just motorhomes and campervans, just dealers. And you can get an end-of-season sale on 2024 stock, or you'll be the first place to see 2025 stock.
And as well as new, we can expect to see used as well.
Yeah, there'll be a good mix of new and used.
Yep. So this is a day visitor only show, so there's no camping at this event. But the big news is that the January sale event is free to attend. Is that right?
Yeah, you can register online for free tickets now.
Brilliant. Now, you've also built for 2025 a brand new website and a new booking system. What are we going to experience from using that?
It's a much better user experience. It's a lot more information, easier to find information, a lot more visual, and easier and simple booking system.
Brilliant. Now, all the tickets as well this year are going to be electronic.
Yep.
So they're going to be delivered to our email, onto our phones.
Yep.
But if people want to print them off, they can. Is that okay?
Yeah. So you'll get your tickets straight away, immediately after booking, and you can either print them off, or you can have them sit in your Eventbrite app, or download your digital wallet and just show the QR code. Yeah.
Brilliant, fantastic. So to find out more about the January sale, and in fact all of Warner's events throughout 2025, head to mhmp.info/Warners. That was Michael Douglas, Head of Marketing at Warner Shows. Thanks for coming in, Michael. It's great to see him as always.
So what do you predict for 2025 then?
I think the big question is going to be about prices, and people are going to be worried about buying a motorhome new now, because they're going to be worried that the bubble's going to smash and burst. I think they're going to remain strong. I think we're going to see great deals on new, and I think used prices, whilst they're going to remain strong, are going to remain under pressure. So again, I think there'll be deals around.
So do you think we'll see a boom or a decline in the motorhome industry? A couple of times in 2024 it did feel like it was on a downward trend, didn't it?
Yeah, and it was. I mean, there was a suddenly oversupply. Less people were kind of queuing to buy a motorhome, and dealers suddenly had loads of stock. I don't think it's going to be a boom or a decline. I think it's going to be kind of business as normal now. I think we've kind of gone through this kind of sine wave, as you like, or pendulum swing, however you want to describe it. And I think we need stability, but at the same time we need innovation. So we need manufacturers to innovate. We need dealers to innovate with the deals they're doing. We even need campsites to innovate. Campsites have been getting a really bad press this year, and some people are blaming campsites for the decline in the industry. It's absolutely not fair, and it's not true. They're not the reason at all. They're saying, oh, it's too expensive to stay on a campsite. I'm not going to do it, and therefore I'm not going to spend £60,000 on a motorhome. Rubbish. It's not true. But they need to innovate, and we need more innovation in our industry. We need innovation at every level, from the tech to the design and into how we use them as well. And all of it needs to be innovated.
What about those screen prices? Let me press you a bit on that, because, with EV being big part of a government policy, and what's the cut-off date that they want the majority of vehicles sold?
2030.
And that's all vehicles sold in the UK, isn't it? Cars. Does that count vans and motorhomes as well?
Vans as well, and there's a percentage that have to be non-fossil fuel, 70 or 80%.
But if you've already got a diesel motorhome, you can resell it. You're not going to be told to throw it away.
No.
So it's worth buying one now and keeping it past 2030, because let's face it, you don't do a huge amount of miles in it. So reselling it can be quite cost effective. So, apart from the screen price, which does seem to be going ballistic, there's every reason to buy one, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, EV is a big topic, and in 5 years' time from now is when that deadline hits, and we are just not ready for it, both in terms of the product design, how that technology is going to be applied to a motorhome, and the infrastructure. I mean, we look at charging points. How on earth do you charge a motorhome on a campsite? We're not ready for it at all. And I am excited to be talking to a number of innovators in this niche, and we've got them coming on the podcast to talk about how charging on campsites is evolving, and some of the real stuff that you as the consumer are going to experience in the future when you go on a campsite. So I'm excited about that. That's coming up later in the year. But I think EVs it's going to be a big delay. I mean, I cannot see how it can actually be rolled out and delivered. As an industry, we are certainly not ready. We're at the short end of the stick when it comes to an electric van. We want to go a long way, weighing a lot, and we just can't. It's just not practical. The change will come. This needs innovation, and it's happening. And I always say it's an exciting time to be alive and to witness this change in our sector, because it's happening and it's coming. So, I'm watching with a great interest.
And sympathy with the campsites as well, because you could have been running actually a very well respected and profitable campsite that people keep going back to. But if you're converting it for charging an EV use, what you're going to have to spend 100,000, 200,000 getting, wiring in and charging points and meeting requirements and industry standards. I mean, I feel for campsites, I must admit. Yeah,
they've got a bit of a raw deal at the moment, I have to say. I mean, we did an episode with Patruth Paddocks on paying for power on a campsite, and Jules told us exactly how much he had to spend on his campsite to frankly make charging for electric fair. That was a great episode and really insightful of Jules, grateful to him for sharing that with us. So campsites need to innovate, and there's going to be a lot of change coming, I think.
And what's in store for our listeners in 2025?
Well, if you're still happy to, we're planning a weekly episode throughout the year. Is that all right? You
that's
still
all right
okay?
with me. Yeah, that's
you keep
fine.
happy turning up every week?
Yeah.
Without that shirt?
Come out from under the broom cupboard. Harry Potter left it and I took it over.
We'll let you out from under the stairs. We are planning a weekly episode throughout the year. So this will be year 4, which is amazing.
That is incredible, isn't it?
It is really incredible. And it's just growing and growing. It's really exciting. Lots planned content-wise. We've got some brilliant guests due to come on. No doubt loads more industry insights. I'm still knocking on doors and kind of digging in the corners to find out what's going on, and we want to share that with you as well. And we're also really excited to be bringing you an exclusive new product to the industry, which is coming in January. We're weeks away. It is currently a big secret, but we will be part of its launch, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. That's coming in a few weeks' time, so stay tuned.
It's the Motorhome Matt Podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. Well, we get to our final questions and answers, our Q&A, where you ask the questions, and Motorhome Matt, for it is he, will give you his expert advice. And if he doesn't know, he'll find somebody that does. So first of all, Les McGee is in Cumbria.
Hi Matt, this is Les from sunny Cumbria. We're about to change our motorhome for a newer model and maybe picking it up in a week's time or thereabouts. And fortunately, I've rang our insurance today to update them on the van's details, or the new van's details. However, everything was going smoothly. Expected to pay an extra premium because the new van is a little bit more expensive. But we got through everything and that was all okay. But then I found out that because of the value of the new van, the insurance company we're dealing with wouldn't insure it unless we had a tracker fitted. So we will do that because we don't have much choice. It's not like having to renew our insurance. We're halfway through our policy, so we'll have to stay with the current insurer. So that's the situation we're in. But I just wondered if you were aware that there was a value involved of purchasing a motorhome that might incur the need for having a tracker fitted. If we had left the inquiry about our new insurance till the day before we collected it, we would have been in a little bit of a pickle, not being able to collect it because we wouldn't have had insurance, because we wouldn't have had a tracker. Just wondering what your thoughts would be on that. Thank you.
I know I sound like a broken record, but I always say it, don't I, Matt? Insurance companies are insuring risk, and having a tracker fitted obviously helps the vehicle to be recovered if it should be stolen, and the insurance company won't insure you unless you do that.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So Les asked about the value, though, that they need a tracker. Typically, Les, and this does vary from underwriter to underwriter, but I've found it's around £50,000. Some raise that a little bit, and then they want a tracker on the vehicle. And as you say, Keith, it's all about their risk and their exposure to that risk. And a tracker appeases that risk somewhat. So 50k is typical, which of course most motorhomes new are now over that. So it's all motorhomes. And yeah, Les, your experience, you had a lucky escape. I've heard loads of stories. Excuse me. I've heard loads of stories of people going into a dealership and looking to collect the motorhome, and they can't get it insured, and they end up going back home in the car, getting the tracker installed and set up, and then they go back and collect it. And I've been busy trying to raise awareness of this reality, and we did a brilliant episode on the 2G network and how that's being turned off, and how many of these trackers are going to stop working. And it's definitely worth, if you've got a tracker on anything, not just a motorhome, could be a car, a digger, anything, a motorbike, go back and check that out, because this change is happening. And also we did a YouTube video on the different types of trackers, so trying to unpack what S5 is, what S7 means, and who the heck are Thatcham. And I'm grateful to GPS Bob for helping us with that. So thank you to Guy from GPS Bob. So yeah, trackers are a must-have. And the sooner manufacturers start installing them, which means they're actually put in the dealership with a tracker on, the better. Makes easier choices for us as the consumer in terms of, it's done for us, and then we perhaps can choose whose subscription we buy. But the sooner that happens, the better. Will it happen? I don't know. Yeah,
that was my stupid person's question. Why aren't the manufacturers doing it? And if they're not doing it, why aren't the dealers doing it or flagging it up?
That's right. Yeah, and some dealers are doing it, and actually our episodes have affected some of the way the dealers behave, and they are offering this early doors. It's one of the questions we always make a point of here of asking is, okay, this motorhome is 65k. Check with your insurance company that you don't need a tracker, because you probably are, and we'll get it installed, and either part of the deal or part of how we're going to sell this to you. Or if we're buying a motorhome in second hand, one of the questions we asked the previous owner is, have you got a tracker on it, and can we have the subscription details so we can pass it on to the next owner, because that needs to happen. So yeah, it's becoming a big topic, and trying to raise awareness of it has been one of my missions this year.
Cheers, Les. Thanks for the question. Sarah's in Belfast. Matt, we're due to go to a forest park tomorrow, but the winds are going to get up to 35 miles an hour. Should I cancel the plans? We've had the motorhome for just under a year.
Well, it's a good question. When did she ask it yesterday? It's probably blown through by now, Sarah. I would say 35 miles per hour is gusty. It's not going to blow your motorhome over, that's for sure. You're very wise, though, to be looking at the forecast. When we were in the Outer Hebrides, we were experiencing gusts of over 70 miles per hour, and we parked on Harris behind a massive sand dune, which gave us protection. My other advice is park nose into the wind, not side onto it, so there is no chance of you being blown over, because it does happen. In fact, it did happen this year to a family in a motorhome, which we reported on. But nose into the wind is sensible, and when you go into bed, park it so you can drive off in a hurry if you need to, if the weather gets really bad. So that means no external screen cover, keys to hand on the table, and front seats pointing forward, not rotated. So you can quickly, if you need to, open the blind, start up, and drive off in your pyjamas, but you could drive to shelter. Think about the wind direction as well. So don't be parking next to a trampoline with the wind blowing at it onto you. I know that's daft, but think about it. Look at the direction the wind's going, and don't, for goodness sake, park under a tree, because if that tree's going to fall foul to the wind, it's going to damage you.
Ditto some brick walls as well, high
Yeah.
brick walls. People say, I'll put it behind this brick wall, and then over goes the brick wall in high winds.
And if on that brick wall is a tin roof, because there's a garage, think about it. So yeah, just think laterally about this.
Yeah.
It's why we parked alongside a sand dune, because the wind was blowing in from the sea over this dune. And honestly, we had no buffeting at all, and it was gusting at 70 miles an hour. It really was quite frightening, but we stayed there for 2 days.
Yeah, and the thing is check those weather forecasts. I mean, down our neck of the woods, the bridges over the Severn estuary, they'll still, they'll close, even though there's two now, they'll close the old bridge still after all these years when, winds are above 35, 40 miles an hour, because high-sided vehicles, it's another thing, they can get caught by the wind and they'll topple over and crush you as you're going past them. Yeah. Lots of things to think about. If you're not comfortable driving in high winds, no matter how much you've been looking forward to it, if the weather forecast is against you, stay at home.
Yeah, don't go. Yeah, that's right. Very true. Very true.
Cheers, Sarah. Hope we've been some help, and good luck to you in the future. Jenny's in Kent. I just recently bought an off-grid camper van equipped with 400 watts of solar panels, 2 lithium batteries, a 3,000 watt inverter. The works. It's equipped with a microwave, induction hob, diesel heater, hot water. Since buying it, on returning for a follow-up visit, staff from the service department and workroom are saying I should only use the microwave, kettle, etc. when hooked up to the grid, and at most sparingly between hooking up at least every third day, or I will drastically shorten the life of my batteries and inverter. Are they right?
They could be. I mean, you haven't said who installed it or where you took it back to be serviced. Are they a specialist? They may be. You also haven't said what make of batteries they are.
Or indeed the inverter.
And exactly, yeah. So the batteries will have a cycle life. So
by the way, an inverter is something which converts direct current, which is what the solar panels provide, to alternating current, which is what we get from the plug.
Well, it's what the batteries provide, yeah. So 12 volt up to 240 volt.
So it's converted. DC, you get a belt off that, it can do you in. AC is a little bit safer.
You weren't good at physics at school.
I've been electrocuted enough times.
I'm not surprised. You're not installing the inverter on my van. So yeah, that's what the inverter does, is changes the voltage from 12 up to 240 and from DC to AC. So it means you can use a home appliance running off your batteries, which is very clever and very convenient, but the workshop are quite right, it will take a toll on your batteries. Now, if the lithium batteries are a reputable brand, they will have a cycle life of thousands, which means they can go flat, be recharged, go flat, be recharged. That's a cycle, and probably in the tens of thousands. So it's unlikely you're going to ruin them in the time you own those batteries or even that motorhome. But I'd be mindful of it. Of course, when you hook up, you should connect to the 3-pin sockets that are directly to the grid, not via the inverter, because you're still running on the batteries even though you're hooked up, but the recharge is coming from the grid rather than from the solar panel. So make sure you're plugging in the right socket when you're on a campsite and hooked up. If you are off-grid, then yes, you would connect to the inverter. And again, with regards to the make of the inverter, we've just had one fitted on our motorhome, and I'm anticipating it will outlive our ownership of the van. And we will run a coffee machine on it and probably hair straighteners and a hairdryer. We're not going to run a microwave, and we probably aren't going to run the heating and hot water on it either. It's just not big enough. But I would be very mindful how much current you're drawing, so how many thousands of watts you're pulling, which will be on the backs of the appliances. Add those up and don't over-egg it. If it's a 2,000 watt inverter, don't go over that.
Yeah, a thing you have to remember, and getting an inverter and solar panels teaches you this very, very quickly. If you're converting electrical energy into heat, you use loads of electrical energy. So anything that you're generating heat or heating food up, like with the microwave, will draw huge amounts from your battery store, from your batteries. And the advice you're being given is good advice, because they're recommending you don't draw it too quickly. But when you buy your batteries and your inverter, like my one at home, have I mentioned it in the past? Mine never discharges down below 10% of the total battery power.
Yeah.
It protects the batteries, because you don't want to discharge the batteries completely because they forget their batteries and won't charge up again. So ask all those questions when you're buying. But in answer to your question, I think, Jenny, you've been given some good advice. Think about what you're using. Is it converting the energy into heat? So one at a time, you say, Matt?
Yeah, one at a time, and just monitor the current draw and use the app on your phone to monitor the battery management system on your lithium batteries, which hopefully they're trustworthy and reputable batteries, so they'll serve you well.
So Happy New Year to you from
Yes.
all of us here at the Motorhome Matt Podcast. And thanks for over a million now downloads and views. It really is very humbling. We couldn't do it without you. And we'll be here with you for the next 12 months every week. So thanks again, and a very Happy New Year.
Yeah, very, very Happy New Year from all of us here at the podcast, including the team behind the camera that you rarely see.
Motorhome Maddie.
Motorhome Maddie is waving.
So how do people get in touch?
We would love it if you did. If you've got a question, please do ask it, because you'll be helping and serving those thousands that listen and watch. Go to mhmp.info/Ask Matt. Just click the orange button and record it. Tell us where you are, or fill out the form and we'll read it for you.
And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, then make sure you visit the Motorhome Matt Approved directory at mhmp.info/approved. mhmp.info/approved.
And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, and please hit subscribe and that little bell, brought to you by arabasecreative.co.uk.
One more time.
Happy New Year. Cheers.